the sunshine.
Alright. Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to Coffee Thoughts Podcast, episode 56. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of episodes. I always get stoked. So thanks for watching, first of all. I always appreciate it. And today I'm going to be talking about some pretty cool shit, I think. Pretty interesting stuff. And before I start, I need to, just make a little disclaimer. So the content of today's episode is going to be psychedelics and specifically psilocybin mushrooms. So I need to say before I get into this that I am in no way promoting the use of psychedelics, and I don't recommend you do them. I'm just saying it's not something that should be taken lightly at all. And I don't recommend anyone just go and, fuck around with them. They're not, to me, they're not something to be taken lightly. So I just need to say, I'm not promoting the use of substances, any mind-altering substances of any kind. So I wanted to make this episode for a long time, and the main reason that I haven't is mostly just, I guess, out of fear of what people are gonna say, or just kind of what people are gonna think. Mostly because a lot of the people that follow me, some people are younger, and even some people's parents follow me and whatnot. So I think part of me was just I don't want people to sit there and be like, well, Braden does drugs, Braden's promoting drugs, because there's still a lot of misunderstandings about things like mushrooms and even like marijuana. I feel like kind of becoming more and more of a common thing now, but there's still a lot of kind of negative labels tied to that. And I even think back to when I was in elementary school, police officers would come in and say oh, weed is the gateway drug to all these things, and kind of ingrained in your head drugs are bad. And it's strange, because we're taught that weed and mushrooms and all these other things are drugs that are bad, and you should never touch them. But then we're given all these pills. It's like when we're sick or when we're depressed, it's like, oh, here's a pill, here's a synthetic substance you can take instead. But somehow, in our minds, those aren't drugs. So when you kind of start thinking about it, it's a little backwards, And I'm not saying that there aren't benefits to all that stuff, but I'm just saying there's a lot of kind of just conceptual ideas that people have of these things that I was afraid to kind of put myself here and be like, hey, I've experimented with these things, But honestly, this podcast is about real shit, It's about life stuff, and it's not fair to anyone or to myself that I don't talk about my experience with this, because it was one of the most, if not the most, probably the most, honestly, life-changing experience that I've had, or multiple experiences, but I'm specifically going to be talking about my last experience with them, because it just absolutely changed the way that I saw everything, and it changed me, at the core, and in a very positive, spiritual, beautiful way. So I don't really know where to start here, but I'm just going to kind of just dive into it. I got a big old Starbucks, and I got a nice comfy chair today. So let me first, give you a little bit of just a backstory. So I first did drugs, I guess people would call drugs. I smoked weed for the first time when I was I don't know, maybe 15 or 16. And I remember the first night I did that, it was one of the funnest nights ever, and just super high and whatever. And since then I had a patch in my life where I smoked every day, and it helped me creatively at points, but it got to the point where it was just kind of slowing me down. So I kind of stopped doing it, and I don't do it anymore. Even though I make a show about it, I don't smoke weed myself. But the first time that I did psilocybin mushrooms, I think I was also maybe 17, I can't remember exactly, but anyway, somehow we acquired them, and I was at my friend's place, and You know, we were in the forest. It was a beautiful night, moonlit. You know, fireflies everywhere. That it had just rained, so there was like, you know, raindrops everywhere. It was a good night, you know, and I was young and I didn't really know what to expect. You know, I think when you hear the word like hallucinogen, you're like, oh, I'm gonna see shit, like I'm gonna see all these cool things, and that's kind of what I thought was gonna happen. But I remember like really what ended up happening was, you know, it took them, and we were sitting in this little shed, and my first kind of thought was like, whoa, like everything's really small. Like I was like, wow, I'm really tiny. This shed is really tiny, and everything's small. And I was kind of like, do you guys like get that? And they were like, yeah, you know. So what kind of started to happen was, it wasn't like I was seeing things. It was a change in my perspective. And after that, we went outside and had an incredible night exploring the forest and like literally just connecting with like little bugs and plants, and just it was the first time that I saw everything from not just my little general human perspective. You know, it was like, wow, I'm actually part of a massive, beautiful thing that is nature, and it's far beyond my personal, you know, ego. Like it's far beyond that, and it's something that I feel like at the time I understood fully, and like I knew and I felt, but then afterwards I couldn't explain it. I couldn't, like, you can't really word that, you know? And it's kind of like when you have a dream that's super vivid and super complex and like amazing, and you wake up and then you try to remember it and you start to forget it because your brain isn't, you know, really designed to operate at that frequency or at that level of perception, you know, when you're just in your normal conscious state. So it's like when you're experiencing the dream, or like when you're experiencing your trip or whatever, it's happening at a higher vibration, or like you're perceiving it just, you know, faster or whatever. It's almost just like more data. So when you come down and you kind of return to your normal state of consciousness, like you can't really recall it correctly because your brain is not at the same, you know, place or state that it was. So that's kind of what happened. And then a couple of times over the years, like I, you know, tried them again, and same type of experience. And you know, I've been really into, I guess, like meditation, and I guess you call it spirituality, like, you know, the shit that I talk about on my podcast and just whatever, since I was like pretty young, like 16, and I started meditating and was doing it really heavily, and started to see how it impacted my actual physical reality, and, you know, started fucking around with manifesting things, and just like, you know, just really being like, okay, like what can I actually do, you know, what can we do as like humans, as creators, like what are we actually capable of? And you know, you go through, at least for me, it's like I, you know, go through patches where it's like I'm really on the flow, and then I kind of fall off, and then I have to get back up. But what I found on my, I guess, spiritual journey, I'll call it, is that like no matter like how much you kind of waver off the path, as long as you kind of get back on at some point, it's not like you're just like back where you started. You're kind of still back, you're progressing still. So it's like everything that I feel like I've learned since I started to dive into this kind of thing, even if I fall off for a while and get sucked into life and depression and anxiety and thinking, it still builds up, you know? So it's like your perspective still builds over time. And I think for me, it's been the more that I question things, the more that I seem to have experiences that reflect that, and reflect, you know, the questions that I'm asking. And I've kind of come to the understanding that mushrooms, at least, because I haven't tried anything else, you know, I haven't done like DMT or ayahuasca or anything like that. So I'm just talking about mushrooms right now, but it's, to me, it's a very powerful, very, very powerful substance, and it's very spiritual for me. It's very like, it's like accessing it, you know, I don't know, like just God consciousness or something, but it's like it always kind of answers your question, even if you don't know what your question is. So this kind of leading up to my last experience, which was last December. So basically I just was in a very dark place. I was just, for a lot of reasons, you know, I was just going through a lot of internal kind of turmoil, you know. It's not like I was like necessarily, you know, showing it to people or whatever, but I was just going through a lot of internal turmoil, and this is kind of when I got really into, I guess, like philosophy, or like just, you know, different ideas of what really is reality, and kind of really thinking about these things like, wow, like nothing makes sense. A lot of things that I've talked about in my podcast, a lot of things from, actualize.org, if you guys watch that podcast too, just really diving heavily into like some really fucked up ideas and like just kind of things that when you really ponder them, they become kind of real, because you, at least for me, it's like you see how like these questions don't necessarily have answers, just something specific, like for example, you don't know that you're not generating everybody's consciousness like you do when you're in a dream. It's like if you talk to people in a dream and you have conversations with them and you wake up, like, did you generate all those conversations? Did you generate how they look? Did you generate their personality within your dream? And something like an idea like that, when you think about it enough, it's like, wow, like there's no way for me to know that that's not happening right now. So just kind of certain things like that, like I really started to dive in and ponder those things and talk about those things. And so I was in this kind of weird space of like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in reality. I'm trying to kind of like ground myself again, and I'm also kind of going through a lot inside, but I'm still feeling like, I still feel good. Like weirdly, it was this weird kind of mix of like, I've never felt that way before. So I was feeling like I'm still on the path, but there's a lot of darkness here right now, and I feel very not like grounded at all. And so I was in this weird kind of vulnerable spiritual place, I think, and I was aware that I was too. It's not like I didn't know. So I went on tour with Plain White T's, Summer High, and a couple other bands in November, and it was honestly one of the best tours I've ever had. Like it just the dense life experiences and the connections and relationships I built on that tour were just amazing, and just it was such an amazing experience that I came home and I felt like I felt like I had done something, and I felt good, and I was still going through all this shit, but that tour kind of gave me like this light in the darkness a little bit, and kind of reinvigorated my love, I guess, for everything. And I don't know. So I was in this weird spot when I got home, and December rolled around, and I just kind of knew that I was going to do, psilocybin mushrooms again. At some point, I just had this feeling, because anytime I do them, I just know, like, I only ever do them when I'm pulled to do them, and I just could feel myself being pulled to do that. And I know that might sound just like, oh no, you just wanted to trip, but no, it's this different kind of internal knowing, that you can't really explain unless you experience it. So if you guys have ever done that, you'll know what I'm talking about, I think. So it ended up, I went to my buddy's place, and he's like, all right, yo, I got some mushrooms. I was like, okay, well, I guess here we are, so and this is kind of, I'm gonna tie a lot of things into this, because at the time I was also drinking alcohol too. So I had been drinking on the tour, and with alcohol it's this weird thing, because you can get yourself into this spot of like you're doing it, but you still are okay. Because for me, it's always been a very delicate balance, like spiritually, with alcohol. It's like either very dark or it's like fine. But eventually, if I keep drinking, it's going to pull me down into this kind of spiral. So I was on the edge of that, So I was drinking a lot, but I was still having a good time and like making good memories and stuff. So it didn't feel like it was a problem really. And I was smoking, a pack of cigarettes a day as well. So the night that I went to go do mushrooms anyway, so I had been drinking a little bit, and essentially what happened is, like, me and a couple of my friends were just chilling in his basement, and this is kind of weird, and I'd been listening to this artist, and I don't want to like say a specific name because I don't want to tie that, but I'd been listening to this artist that his music's very, very powerful to me, and a lot of his songs were kind of what I was feeling at the time, just being like feeling trapped, and like specifically just like being in a basement and like just crazy shit. So I'd been filling my kind of mind with these really depressing, powerful lyrics that were helping me through, but also I realized later were like helping create my reality too. So so we were in my buddy's basement, which I am very familiar with. I've lived there for a long time. I've been there a million times, and we we're drinking and stuff. And so I took some mushrooms and just chilled. And I think kind of what happened is I didn't realize how much I took, because normally with a trip, for me it's like a couple grams or whatever, and that's like a trip. But I ended up that night taking probably 5 or 6 grams of these psilocybin mushrooms, and these ones that he had were like just different vibe than I've ever felt before. So usually what happens when you have a trip is like you take, at least for a lot of people, you take them and you kind of think nothing's happening. You're like, oh, I don't feel anything, it's been an hour, it's been 2 hours, I feel nothing. So then you take more, and that's kind of what was happening to me. And I had also, like I said, I'd been drinking a little bit too, so I was just kind of just give me more kind of thing. So what ended up happening is we went outside, and it was winter time. It wasn't like crazy snow, but it was pretty cold, but it wasn't like unbearably cold. So we went and we walked up this trail into a field, which I've been a million times. And we got up there, and I just noticed the sky and the stars, and it looked like it literally just looked like a spaceship. And that's kind of like just like a trippy weird thing. It's like, wow, it looks like a spaceship, whatever. But it was like unbelievably beautiful. Like I've had many moments looking at the sky and the stars and the moon. It's like it's always beautiful, but I just remember that being like unbelievably beautiful. And that's when I was like, okay, all right, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it because I'm like starting to shiver and shake a little bit, and I'm like almost in tears because of how beautiful the sky is. I was okay, like I'm tripping now, whatever. And so we started walking back to the house, and we were like it's literally maybe 5-minute walk back to his place. And we were just walking, and I just remember feeling like we had been walking for hours. And I know it's kind of a normal thing, like time kind of gets warped a little bit, but I remember we stopped and I was like, yo, like where are we? Like I don't recognize this part of the trail. And we all kind of stopped for a second, and we're like, wait a minute, like yeah, this is weird. But I think like I was kind of the one that initiated that. So anyway, I just remember being here and being like, I don't know where we are. And I just felt my whole body getting so cold. Like, and I've never experienced that before. I've never really experienced the whole temperature thing with trips before. But I just remember it got to the point where I couldn't, it felt like ice was coating my hands. And it like genuinely, I was touching my fingers and my hands, and like it felt like there was ice on them. And I was like, yo, like I can't, I'm starting to not be able to move my hands. Like I'm freezing cold. And it was just strange because when we went outside, it wasn't that cold. So I was like, yo, can we just go back? So we ended up going back, and when we got back in, I ended up taking some more mushrooms, and this was like the last bit that I took, which probably, like I said, set me up to, 5 or 6 grams is a lot. And I was just sitting on the couch, and this is when it started. This is when like my life literally changed forever. So essentially and this is really hard for me to recall, so forgive me if this is not making sense. It is a hard thing to kind of really recall, because it was an unreal experience. So I was sitting there, and I remember my heartbeat like going so fast. It started to go so fast, and I was like, well, this happens sometimes, your heart starts racing, get anxiety, whatever. That's so I'm okay. But it started really going, and I remember it started kind of just feeling like something was wrong. So I stood up and I'm like, yo guys, like I don't think I'm okay. And it was literally that moment where everything shifted. So I was standing there being like, I'm literally about to die. Like I was convinced that I was about to have a heart attack or something. I'm like, I'm not okay. Like my pulse was going so fast. I was feeling it in like weird places, and they were all just like, hey, no, it's okay, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, And I was like, inside I was like, no, I'm not fine. I am not fine. And I was absolutely terrified, and I was like, I know I'm about to die. Like that's what I felt. And I had this moment where I just fell onto the couch. And I literally, from that point forward, believed wholeheartedly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, fully consciously, that I was dead, that I had died. And that is something that, a lot of people have talked about with trips, but you can't imagine what it's like unless you've actually experienced it, because you can have moments in life where you think like something bad's gonna happen, or I'm in danger, or whatever. But when you're, for me, it was like you're fully conscious when you're on psilocybin. Like you're still conscious. It's not like you're like it is when you're drunk, like you don't know what's going on and shit. Like you're fully conscious, more so than you are when you're just sober. So the problem was that like I was thinking, like I was like, well, I can think my way out of this. Like logically, no, this doesn't make any sense. But the problem was that I couldn't. I was like, if I was dead right now, I wouldn't know. And so I just fully wholeheartedly believed like that's it. I just died. I just like had like a heart problem or something, and I just died, and I'm stuck here, and that's it. And what started to happen after that is I started to try to tell my friends, like, hey, like, I think I just died. Like what's going on? But it was to the point where like I couldn't like get it across to them. And what started to happen is they would say things back to me, but it's so hard to explain, but everything that they said just confirmed it to me. It wasn't like they were saying, oh yeah, you did. It just, the way they said things and the words that I was hearing confirmed it all. Like it kept confirming it and confirming it and confirming it. And they were laughing, and because I don't know what was going on really, but I guess they were in their own thing, so they were like laughing. And one of them kept saying like stuff about life just being a movie, and just hanging out with the boys, like all this shit. And so it just felt like I was in this like purgatory. I was like, holy fuck, like this is what happened. And I was thinking about the day before, and like all these little moments where I was like, I could have died right here. I could have died here, like running across the street. I could have got hit by a car. Like I was like, I'm like, it was insane. It's fucking insane. And so I kept trying to ask for help, but they kept just saying these things that were just made me feel like this was it. This was going to be a loop that was going to happen forever and ever and ever. And I just remember feeling so just sad, because I was like, oh my god, like there's so many things that I didn't do, and I've just been like poisoning myself with cigarettes and alcohol. And I should have called this person. I should have told this person that I appreciate them. I miss playing shows. I miss hanging out with people at my shows. Like I was crying, and I was like, I just miss life, because I felt like I wasn't in it anymore. And so that was kind of like where my consciousness was at for the next 6 to 8 hours. And what started to happen is everything that I was thinking, everything that I was believing had happened would manifest itself through, there was a movie playing, it would manifest itself through what the actors were saying, or the scene that was happening. I started to think about all my deepest fears, which I'm not really going to get into because a lot of it's kind of like personal, but anything that I was actually deeply terrified of came out to the surface and was manifesting itself in the people that I love, and the things they were saying, and the way that they looked at me, and the way they were talking to each other. I felt so alone. I felt like the people that I loved, that I knew, I thought I knew, just the whole time had just planned this and were going to kill me, and wouldn't let me out, because they wouldn't let me out. Obviously, thinking back, it's like I was tripping and whatever, they wouldn't let me out. But at that point, it's like, well, you guys are keeping me in here, you guys, So everything that I was afraid of, and like believing that the external world was the cause of my issues, it was all like manifesting itself. And even like I remember I was like texting my friends, and they would say shit back to me that further confirmed like my fears. And I was trying to read articles about like how to get through it, but I could only process certain sentences and certain word structures. And I was listening to like Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle, the people that like I listened to learn things and for comfort, but everything that they were saying made me feel like they were just making fun of me, and that this was all a joke and nothing was real, and I was dead, and it was insane. So it was like entire reality was confirming to me what I believed at the time, which was that I was in purgatory. I was done. This was a loop, and this is all it is. Because to me it was like wherever you end is where you stay forever. And so basically all my deepest, darkest fears from my entire life, things I did not even realize I was afraid of on a daily basis, manifested themselves to me through my environment and through the reality around me. So it literally was not reality that changed at all. It was my the meaning I was giving everything completely changed. So I'm trying to think of how to elaborate on this a little bit. What I ended up realizing through the trip, and because later on, a little bit later, after I had like my moment of acceptance, because at some point I did accept it fully, that this was it. I like, not just like, oh, maybe I'll wake up. Like, no, I accepted it fully. And it's something, again, that's really hard to explain, but I accepted it fully. So after that, I was like, you know what, there's nothing I can do. And it was this moment of, take me, you know, there's nothing I can do. I have no control over this now. So after that happened, I was still attempting to kind of read things and listen to things, and I started getting these little words and little phrases and little signs of like alcohol and cigarettes and like, you know, death and all these things. And I started to realize like this was a lesson, and I didn't know for sure, but towards the end I had some kind of like faith that like this was something that I was being taken through, and this was a wave that I was being taken through, and I needed to listen, and I needed to just allow it to happen. And what I realized is later, because this movie had been playing the entire time, and it was Alien Covenant, I believe, which I'll never watch ever, because it was part of the nightmare. And what I realized is that my friends had been watching this movie the entire time, and I got this like, you know, thing that I was like, you just need to tell them to turn the movie off and go to sleep. And I was so afraid to do that because, you know, to me it's like they were like the demons. They were like the things that were like out to get me. And so, and anyway, at the end of the night, I was like, hey, like after literally sitting there and wanting to say it for a long time, I literally was like, yo, you guys need to turn the movie off and go to bed. And as soon as I said that, they did, and they went to sleep. And I know it sounds absolutely insane, but after going through all that and being in a place where I felt like I had no control, that I was dead, that everything I feared was, you know, just there, I realized after a long time, well, not even a long time, maybe a couple days or whatever, that reality is a malleable substance. Reality is nothing. It's nothing until you give it a meaning. And what I realized through this trip is that you can I can tell my demons to just fuck off. I don't have to allow them to just be there and ruin my life. And what I realized is that life is precious and life is beautiful, and it's always infected by these fears that we have. It's always infected by these ideas that we have and these attachments that we have. So experiencing an 8-hour period where I truly believe that it was gone gave me the perspective of like understanding somewhat what it's like to not have it. And what I realized through that is that, like, in a very instant, hyper kind of way, is that we do create our own reality. And I got to experience that in like an instantaneous kind of form. And I'm not talking about like physically manifesting an object. I'm saying like you give something a meaning, it's going to reflect that back to you and further confirm your belief. So I experienced that on just an insane scale, because it's like you know, something you think you know and people you think you know and you love, and like an environment that you know and love suddenly becomes this kind of malicious, like dark, evil place, only because that's what I was holding inside. So it was, and remember I told you like all leading up to this, I was in this crazy spot. So it was like all of that I was holding inside flooded out, shifted how I was perceiving everything around me, and gave me that experience. So what I learned from that is that is what's happening all the time, just on a slower kind of scale that we're not as conscious of. But now, like, I am hyper aware of that shit now. And I just realized that you generate your experience, you generate your reality. The meanings you give things, the things you think about, what you keep in your mind, what you program your subconscious with, it generates your life experience, and it's the experience you get reflected back to you. So even coming down to like the music I was listening to at the time, it was like this really depressing, really heavy, like death, I don't want to be alive shit. And that's what I experienced. And it was like deeply, deeply, deeply terrifying, but also deeply cleansing, you know, to the point where like I said, I've not been the same since then. But what happened was it just felt like this like dark kind of root that was like pulling me into the ground that I'd carried my whole life was just kind of dug up, you know, and I feel just more open and more free and happier and full of love, and like I don't have anxiety all the time. It just washed everything away. And yeah, it really showed me, that reality is a malleable substance. What I mean by that is it's a substance you can shape into whatever you want it to be. And even if you tell yourself that you're not shaping it, you're just going to further confirm that to yourself and trick yourself, you know. And this is what I believe, this is what I feel, this is what I know, and this truth to me, you know. And I can only speak from my own perspective, and this isn't the only experience I've had in this life that's led me to believe these things or understand these things. But I just realized, you know, we gotta be careful, we gotta be really careful. And I'm blessed that I got to see that. And I know it sounds crazy, and I can't ever like word how it felt to be in that position, but I feel blessed to have a glimpse of my deepest, darkest fears, because I'd rather know that they're there than just they kind of subconsciously are running shit for me my whole life, because I think that's what happens most of the time. And so I feel lucky that I had this experience, and it was a very deeply spiritual experience, and it wasn't a random trip at all. And so anyway, that's my experience with them. And again, like I said, it's not something to be taken lightly at all. And this was life altering. This was conscious altering. And my consciousness, my perspective has changed forever because of this. And you know, so this is why I say, like, I'm not promoting this. I'm telling you, like, this shit can completely change how you see reality. It can rip the ground from under your feet. You know, you probably won't be the same after you do these things. And so this is why I think, like, because mushrooms and everything is becoming more popular and you know, being decriminalized, like, you still need to be careful, because as much as I believe, like, these substances are put here for a reason, and they can connect you to you know, something that you can't access consciously, and it feels good. It's not like, you know, you're doing heroin or something and you're just high. It's not like that. It's literally, it's like deeply rooted in love. And so I think sometimes love has to manifest itself in those dark forms for a purpose. But I feel like whatever, you know, energy is behind, you know, those kind of substances is pure. It's intelligent. It's far beyond anything we can understand. And I think it's cool that the universe has allowed us to, you know, like, just kind of place doorways into those kind of things, because it's like, to me, it's like, that's not an accident at all. So it's very powerful. It's very powerful, and I don't know if that really fully made sense, but yeah. So it was like a part of me did die that night, in a way, and I know that's like researching it later, you know, ego death is a thing that people describe a lot. So maybe that's what I went through, but it was insane. It's fucking absolutely insane, but like a massive blessing, because it would like wave, man, just a storm, and after the storm it's like beautiful still water, and the grass was green again, and I heard the birds, and it's crazy. So just be careful, you know, be careful if you're gonna do that stuff, and because it, like I said, it's powerful. So yeah, and I think one other thing which my old roommate can attest to, which I found out later, because after that I started experiencing a lot of synchronicities like directly after that trip. And I remember we were cleaning one day in our apartment, like a couple months after, and I found this little thing on the table. I was like, yo, what's this? So Andrew told me, he's like, oh, that's from, you know, our buddy that was here. You weren't here that weekend though. And he told me who it was, and this guy that had been at our apartment while I was away on my trip, literally that weekend, was the only person that entire night and after that I actually helped me get through and process my trip. And he's a guy who makes videos and dedicates his channel to talking about trips and stuff like that. So I almost like cried when I found that out, because it was like, he's not even from anywhere in like around here, and he just happened to be at our place while I was there, you know, at my buddy's place tripping. And the coincidence of that was just like fucking insane. So I think it was after that too, I was like, alright, that all happened for a purpose, and I don't need to question it anymore. I can just move on and understand that I was being taught a lesson, and I was, and I absorbed it, and I'm here, and I'm happy to talk about it, you know, because it's like we you know, there are things that are present in this reality that we don't fully understand, and we don't really talk about a lot, and doesn't mean it's not real, you know, it doesn't mean it can't have a direct effect on your conscious waking reality. So I think, like I said, the biggest lesson that I learned from this is you gotta be careful and realize that you do shape your own reality. And it's a difficult thing to become kind of aware of and conscious of, but the more you focus on it, where you put your focus, you know, reality will go and magnify. So if you put the focus on just being shown that, you will be at some point, and you have to listen for it. But again, it's like you have to realize, like, if you're experiencing demons in your life, if you're experiencing like bad shit in your life, stop looking out there, because it's in here. It is in here. It's at the core of you. It is you, and you need to address that. You can't try to address the outside and expect it to change for you, because it's just a mirror of what you are experiencing within yourself, and you need to look within yourself. You don't have to do mushrooms or fucking LSD or whatever to do that. I'm just saying, like, it's something that you can just do on a daily basis, and just be conscious of that. And the more you put attention on that, the more you start to realize, like, yeah, you know what, I am thinking these really negative thoughts all the time, or I am watching this really shitty stuff on YouTube, or I'm listening to really depressing music. Like, you start to realize, like, I'm programming myself without realizing it, and that's giving me this experience that I don't want. So when you realize that, you can start to reprogram yourself. And a lot of times, you don't even have to do anything, you just have to let things go that don't serve you. So for me, it was like, I have to stop drinking all the time. I have to stop smoking cigarettes. You know, I have to stop, like, thinking about these things. I have to stop listening to this music. I have to stop worrying about this shit. And I stopped, and it's like, you let those things go. It's like you just allow yourself to be free, and you allow the good things that you do want to attract to flow into your life. And it's always a work in progress, you know. It's not like you just do that once, you realize it once, and you're going to be perfect forever. You have to continue to remind yourself, and continue to, you know, just think about these things. So yeah, that's my experience with psychedelics, I guess. And it's part of, you know, why I think I have like a deep love for life that I haven't had before, and it's helped me, it's motivated me. Not like doing those things, but just having that experience helped me, you know, create. It's helped me create. It's helped me just having a broader, amazing, you know, just having a better perspective on reality helps me function better, helps me create better things, helps me be more engaged with people, and just like want to do more good things. Thank you guys for listening. I really wanted to make that episode for a while, and, you know, hopefully it was interesting too, because to me it's interesting to think about. It's an interesting thing, like, it is. I don't really know what to make of it, really, but that's about it. So I wish you guys the best. You know, I love you, and I am really thankful to be doing this, and I feel like when you're making content for YouTube and making music and putting it out on Spotify and whatever, it's like you kind of subconsciously, for me, it's like you kind of got to be a certain way a little bit, and I really do try to break that as much as I can, but you can never do it fully 100% authentically. I wish that you guys, I could just speak to you face to face and have a real conversation, but I just want you guys to know, like, and I'm not just saying this because like I get to have a lot of followers or make money with music or like do cool shit. That's all awesome, but like I'm really thankful to share this like experience of like creating stuff and connecting with people, like connecting with you guys, but like you guys are like a part of that too. Like it's a crazy thing to be able to experience as just a human, and like I'm really thankful, and I'm thankful for all the moments that I've had with all of you, like on tour and even just like messages or on live streams. Like it gives my life meaning, and it helps me to navigate through shit, and even if some of you guys never know me like fully, like in life, we never like become close friends or whatever, I do, I hope that like you do feel like even if we don't talk all the time, like you don't have to have my fucking number, but like I just hope like I like am there for you. Like I do love you, and I care. And if you feel like no one cares, if you ever hit that point, like just know like I do care. Like whether or not you like get a hold of me or whatever, which I try my best to keep open, but I just want you to know like I do, no matter pretty much I would say what you're going through, who you are, if it came down to it, I would always care, and sometimes it just feels like you have nobody, but we do have a lot of people. We have each other, and it's a really powerful thing. It's a hard thing to spread, though. I think it's a hard thing to spread in this day and age, but it's still there. It's still there, and it's important to remember that, and to remember that we all need each other in a different way, and we all are gonna have moments where we like feel alone and feel fucked up and just life sucks, but like we're never by ourselves ever, and it's like that's the biggest thing to remember, is that like someone cares. There's a lot of people that would care. It just happens to be we're all spread across the world and whatever, but we're there. So yeah, I just want to say like thank you to all of you for literally everything over the last 10 years. Like it's been fucking wonderful, and I'm gonna continue to just keep making music and keep creating stuff. I want to pursue acting so badly, and I've been doing what I can to kind of start that journey, and I want to make a movie, and I want to tell stories, and I want to tell them better than I've told them before, and I want to write a better record for you. I want to tour more, and I did actually speak to my manager today about setting up some touring, so I'm really stoked about that. I started writing Beneath the Roses today as well. I know it's the first song for Beneath the Roses. My memory card is full, but what I was saying is just I wrote the first song for Beneath the Roses today, and I know that's the start of the record because it's always like an energy thing. So anyway, yeah, new music will be coming, and I guess I'm gonna end this now. So thank you guys for listening. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll have new music for you soon, and a new episode next week, and new content. So alright, I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and stay cozy. Peace out.